Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. We are here live in the studio in Town Center, Virginia Beach. It's that most wonderful time of the year. Come on, man. Bring it to them.
Yeah, they're setting it up over there, too. They're setting up all the decorations, all the holiday
snow globe.
stuff.
I think we should get in the snow globe, take a picture.
You actually can get in it, can't you? I've never done that before.
There's a door.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you can, and there's snow that blows around.
Oh, but they put decorations in it, don't they? It's not for us.
I don't know.
We should go do it right now before they get decorations in it.
Local pastors arrested in the snow globe at Town Center. It's that time of year, though. Kohl's commercials came out. So let me tell you about this Kohl's commercial I saw.
I'm ready.
Marketing is either a genius or they just pulled it out of the hat. So this Kohl's commercial was a pair of pajamas they advertised. Then they advertised this discount on a toy they were selling. Then they advertised a piece of baking ware. And I was like, what a random commercial. So how many people do you filter out when you advertise pajamas, a toy, and then something you bake with? And my wife, I looked at her and I said, what kind of marketing team does this? She said, that's everything I'd want. She said, they're geniuses.
Yeah, nailed it.
As a mom, she said, I want the pajamas. I don't want to have to leave the house because I got kids. She get the toy. Great. I don't have to go looking for one. And then the baking stuff. Great. I already have what I need.
Yeah, makes sense.
I said, well, so this is what I want to say. Kohl's, well done.
Nailed it.
Well done. You know exactly who you're trying to market with that commercial.
Nailed it.
Me, I'm thinking, this is a waste of my time. My wife, she just bought a new toy, a pair of pajamas, and a piece of bakeware.
What's your commercial? What's speaking your language
right now?
Hit me with the three things it would be in your commercial.
Comedy.
For Christmas.
Comedy. Okay. It's got to be funny.
Okay.
It has to be. It has to have that feel. There's got to be snow.
Yeah.
There's got to be some snow or a jingle.
Oh,
a bell.
Sure. Yeah. So music.
Comedy.
You're all
a
about
jingle.
the music too.
It's all about the music.
Yeah,
I need an intro song.
I know you do.
There's got to be comedy. There's got to be music, and then I would say there has to be a cliffhanger.
Man, you're drama, dude. You're drama, man.
I wanted to laugh, I want to cry, and then I want to know, what do I do next? I want it to be the most dramatic 30 seconds of my life. It's a big ask.
You want to end with that, like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, what? I got to go get it right now. How about you?
Right.
What do you need?
Oh, geez. I mean, I'm talking, if it's got electronics, I'm in it. Sci-fi, I'm in it.
I mean, that's pretty much every old school Circuit City commercial right there.
Yeah.
Y'all remember Circuit City?
But yeah, it's Christmas. I do like, snow in a forest. How do you combine those things, though? I
mean, there's a lot of sci-fi movies that take place in forests.
It's true. There's a Tom Cruise one called Oblivion. It's kind of like, feels like snowy and stuff.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a sci-fi guy, but for the ones I've seen, a lot of forests are there,
Yeah.
So it's that time of year where NBA has started, the coaching carousel has begun. Draymond Green put somebody in a headlock last night.
Oh boy,
it was pretty. Dude came running. Klay Thompson got in a rumble with somebody. It was right when it was literally probably the first 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
He got in a tussle and Draymond Green comes running over top and put Gobert in a headlock. It was great.
Oh man,
I was like, way to go, Draymond. Represent. He was like the enforcer for hockey. Like, hey, my boy. Klay is in a tussle. They grabbed his jersey. Klay Thompson's in this little tussle, and then Gobert comes over to like kind of break it up, and then he just jumps over top the pack and just puts him in a headlock. I mean, these 6'7" men in a tussle, and they, 3 people got thrown out within the first 2 minutes of the first quarter. But it's the most wonderful time of the year. You know what else is a coaching carousel? This is interesting because one of the big names right now being thrown around is Deion Sanders, and let me explain why.
For basketball.
For football.
Oh, I was about to say. I was like, all right, we're
why
jumping.
Not? Let
we're
Deion
jumping
go
already.
Let Deion go to basketball. Why not? So Deion Sanders is coaching Colorado, but Texas A&M just fired Jimbo Fisher, which Jimbo Fisher is going to make $26,000 a week for the next 8 years as a buyout.
Jeez, a week?
As a buyout. Good
night.
For 8 years. They're paying you not to coach. So how bad are you?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any problem with Jimbo, but my thought is I don't know how I would feel. I mean, I'd be grateful, but if you're a coach and you're getting paid $26,000 a week for 8 years, is that not a stark reminder of how much somebody doesn't want you?
I'm gonna pay you all this money. Just sit over there, please.
Millions and millions
Yeah.
and millions and millions. You're getting paid nearly $100,000 a month not to coach.
What'd you say? $27,000?
$26,000.
$26,000? We're gonna hit it up right now. I mean, you're getting $26,000 times 52. That's 1.3 million.
I think I'm wrong.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's $26,000 a day.
Stop.
Yeah,
Stop.
He's getting paid. His buyout is $77.6 million.
That's $9.4 million in a year.
Yeah, that's right.
Golly.
It says the payout will be annual installments of $7.2 million from 2025 through 2031. So he's getting paid $77 million. So as a coach, you think, yeah, I got them. That's my buyout. But how does that really make you feel knowing they're paying you $77 million to not coach their team? That's the way I look at it. Now, I think Jimbo Fisher, he's set. He's set for the rest of his life. You've done something great to get that far. But to be paid $77 million to not coach, I don't care what anybody says. You could be sitting in one of your 15 houses or on your luxury yacht thinking, I am making all this money to not coach.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it.
I'm not saying I wouldn't, but there's a part of me that's like, man, I want to go back and grind. I got to coach somewhere.
Yeah.
But I wonder if he loses it if he starts coaching somewhere. I don't know. Probably not.
I don't know.
You're getting paid $26,000. Yeah, it was a day. It wasn't a month. I think it was a day.
What does that feel like?
I don't know. Good. If Palms offered me right now a salary to not pastor, I'd leave tomorrow.
Listen, here's the deal.
We don't want you here, and we know you won't leave on your own, so we're going to pay you. Say, listen, you don't want me to preach, you don't want me to lead, you want me to teach. How much you paying me?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'll take it. So, hey, Case, the good news is the good news is we're getting paid a lot of money. The bad news is we're getting paid a lot of money to not pastor anymore.
You got to do something really bad to get paid money to not do it again.
Just not win. At those big programs, he's just not winning.
I know.
That's all it is.
I just mean
he didn't do nothing wrong.
General.
I mean, obviously, he's going to have a good Thanksgiving. He's going to be getting paid tons of money, not have the stress of coaching. Jimbo, well played. Well played, Jimbo. Well played.
Hey, look, Mom, we made it.
The coaching carousel has begun, though. So now people are saying, well, Texas A&M, big SEC school. They're saying, what about Deion? And Deion says, I don't want nothing to do with that. But let me explain a situation here. Right. Deion Sanders is a black head coach that has more influence than most white head coaches, if not all, right? And it wouldn't make sense for Deion to transfer to a new school. I mean, not transfer, but to take another job because his transfer portal, it's not the right timing for some of his players to go with him.
Yeah.
So I don't think everybody would be able to go with him. So he would lose some of his players that he's built this Colorado program around. Mm-hmm. And he always says, hey, get us this year because this is the last year you're going to get shots on us like this. And he's probably right. But I say that because I wonder with Deion, how much pressure is he getting from other black head coaches or just being a black head coach? I don't think people understand the pressure Deion's going to get. And Deion will do what Deion does. But the pressure he's getting to say, hey, this isn't just about you. You're actually fighting for an entire race. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of opportunity that's not afforded to these black head coaches and black coaches that are honestly – they're ready. Like it's not like, well, they came through. No, like they're as capable as any other coach, right? Mm-hmm. But no matter what people say, there is definitely a lopsided coaching culture.
Yeah.
It's just as what it is. GMs, owners, all that.
Yeah.
And that's one reason I wish he was I loved that Magic Johnson was a part of the ownership group for the Commanders. Like, we need diversity at the top of organizations, period. And so I wonder with him, how much pressure is he getting? And if he ever did go to another school like Texas A&M, even if he didn't want to, is it something he's doing for his entire race, saying, hey, I'm trying to get as far and big as I can because I've got a platform other coaches don't that I can open up doors for. I mean, a lot of his staff is black. He's given opportunities to black men, and I think it's in women. I think it's great. Yeah. You know what I mean? That he can pave a way like that. I think it's wonderful. Mm-hmm. So I just wonder if it's something he would consider because it's, for him, at the end of the day, I don't know that it'll be a better opportunity than Colorado. Maybe Colorado wins a national championship in 2 years. I mean, Deion's going to continue to bring in the biggest names because he's Deion Sanders. Like, he has his own shoes. He's the best athlete probably in the last 100 years. He's probably the best athlete at any sport. I mean, he played 2 sports. A lot of players can be great at one. He played 2. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he won Super Bowls. And so, I don't know. You know what I mean? If he's going to go. What do you think?
What do I think?
Because he won Super Bowls. He didn't win a World Series, but he played in both the Super Bowl and the World Series. Yeah. So I don't know. I just think like it's not just about his coaching and whether or not he can coach and in his transfer portal. It's about he's a black head coach with a lot of influence. Will he take an SEC job? You know, Kevin Sumlin used to be there. But that was the Johnny Manziel era, and he ended up going to Arizona, and he got fired from that job. And I wonder, will Deion go to the SEC? And is it a bigger splash? Because I don't really think it is. I think the competition, SEC, I get all that. You beat Nick Saban, and you beat these guys who are, you know, these big names. But I wonder if he can't have the same influence as, at Colorado as a Pac-12 school, he's still balling. I mean, his name is still what it is. I don't know that you gain more notoriety going to the SEC if you win at Colorado. You can still, you go undefeated, you're still going to be in the playoff. So I don't know if there's a benefit, you know, if he can build a program where he's at. But I just wonder, is there pressure? Gotcha. I'm sure there's a ton of pressure for him to take the biggest job, to open up the door for, you know, black head coaches. Mm-hmm. That's my thought.
It's true.
So, hey, you asked for it.
Don't blame me. You asked for it.
You almost jumped the gun here earlier, so I had to slow it down a little bit.
You know what I'm going to do next week? I'm just right after the intro, I'm going to play it.
For all you listening that aren't watching, you can't see the angst in Corey's face. You'll never get me, dog. You might play it early. You're never going to get me. So I guess
the programs over here.
I guess the purpose of the show has nothing to do with duping the guy who's producing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to make sure this is not a competitive thing. I don't want to dupe the producer. Don't dupe your producer.
Yeah, hey, your camera's going to magically shut off. I
repent.
It's going to start to look like this.
I repent.
What up, everybody? Welcome to the Corey in the Corner podcast, where we talk about sci-fi, nerd stuff, video games.
This is why, like I said, this is why you don't dupe your producer. It's not smart. You have at any moment, the mic could shut off.
Yeah, we're back. We're back.
So what's your favorite Christmas/holiday commercial of all time?
Commercial?
So we're on to this thing. We talked about the Kohl's commercial. Really. You asked my favorite. What pieces do I want in this? So what is your favorite of all time if you think of one? And I'll start because I've thought about this.
Yeah.
And honestly, it took me less than 30 seconds, probably 10 seconds. It was immediate. Let's be honest. It was immediate when I wrote this question and I thought about it. I'll tell you what was immediate. The M&M's commercial where they walk, they're out there and Santa's there, and they look at him like, he does exist. And and Santa looks at them, he's like, they do exist. And they all pass out.
They pass, yeah, that is
one of my favorites of all time.
That's a really good one.
You got snow, or you got the fireplace, you got the Christmas music, you got, it's funny. And at the very end, I don't even like M&M's. We've gone over this. But it makes me want to eat M&M's after that.
Yeah.
So it makes me want the product. It's the cliffhanger for me.
Goodness, that's a tough one.
It is tough.
I mean, you got the comedy one covered. So I'm gonna go heartfelt.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Coca-Cola Polar Bears.
It's a classic.
I mean, I'm tugging on the heartstrings right now.
Gosh, I love those.
So, you know.
Or the Mercedes with the red Mercedes commercials.
Hey, why don't you tell them what you told me the other day about Mercedes, and they only advertise during Christmas and all. That's cool.
I told you that?
Yeah, never mind.
Was that me?
It was you. How they only advertise during Christmas. They're very inwardly like, we want people to know, we like the people that buy Mercedes, just word of mouth kind of. They don't spend a lot on marketing because they're like, we just want to build a great car. Mm-hmm. And then people that buy Mercedes will tell other people, they'll do the marketing for us. So they only invest in Christmas time marketing.
Yeah, and it has the red Mercedes in every Christmas commercial.
Or at least heavily into Christmas.
It's like Rudolph. Time. I love it.
It's kind of cool.
It is cool. And Mercedes, you know, they're well-built cars. They have a name for themselves.
German.
If you think about it, the best marketing is word of mouth. We all know that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And the only reason you market is for people to try your product, and then they give you word of mouth. It's not like, oh, mass marketing. We all saw this product. We're going to go try it. Yeah. Well, that's great until everybody tries it and your product sucks. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's the whole thing. I was reading about Peloton. I want a Peloton.
Yeah.
If there's anybody listening that you want to buy a present for me for Christmas, invest a couple grand and get me a Peloton. I want a Peloton, but you know, that whole brand is falling apart. The bikes are still great, but so during COVID, everybody was the Peloton market, I wish I had invested in Peloton stock before that, but the whole Peloton market went crazy. Well, then post-COVID, there was some issues. The studio shut down. People started buying bikes and going out on the road again, and the Peloton market crashed in a sense, and people were wondering if the company's going to go under. The company had significant financial issues. I want a Peloton, but like the membership per month is like $44 just to have the membership.
Keep going. Keep talking. We lost your
Yeah, it's all good. Production's mad at me right now. But if you're listening, you don't even know what's going on right now. It's just they blacked me out. Don't worry about it. The whole screen's black.
What a good timing.
But anyway, the camera died. Anyway, the Peloton, the whole Peloton industry fell apart. And that's a commercial I loved. Peloton, it was showing somebody getting up early in the morning. Okay, so you want to know what commercial has ever made me want to buy something? And this is what I think about every time. In the Peloton commercial, the person wakes up, they go downstairs, and they ride their Peloton. And it's snowing outside, and everything looks amazing, like that early morning Christmas. And then their kids come down after they worked out, and they have a Christmas morning after they've ridden their Peloton. I'm like, that makes me want a Peloton. Like, what an incredible commercial. So I still want a Peloton. I'd still like to have one because I think I'd use it all the time. But yeah, the market, it was kind of sad. The whole market kind of crashed on them after COVID, and there was a Peloton issue with the bike seat, I believe, or a part of a bike, or maybe it was their treadmill had an issue, and that really hurt the company. They had to recall a bunch of them and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm going to give you guys an answer to a question you may not be asking, but it's something I want to say. So I met with a guy this morning. He's I meet with a lot of guys who, or I get a lot of phone calls, meet with guys who are church planters, meaning they're going to start a church, or guys who have, or pastors in general. And the one question I always get is they ask me, what advice can you give me that as we start this church or as I'm pastoring would be just, what would you say? And I always tell them, and I'm going to say this to everybody listening, this isn't applicable just to people that are pastoring, but you can go online, you can find systems, programs, processes, styles, rhythms. You can find all that stuff online. But the one thing I've learned in the 9 years being a lead pastor of basically, it's an organization we built from scratch, right? We had people support us financially and churches get behind us, but we built this from nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Corey, you've been a part of church plants. I mean, is, you were a part. I showed Corey a picture yesterday. We started this church in 2014, but in 2013, we were at the boardwalk, and Corey came down with me to shoot a promo video a year before we even launched.
Yeah.
So Corey was here, even though he wasn't here physically for the first. You got here in 2020, right? So you weren't here for the first 6 years, but you were behind the scenes doing stuff for us for 6 years. He was always a part. Well, I say this because I told this church planter, I'm telling a lot of people, I say, you got to find what God's called you to be and be you. I said, for years, our church just ran the play of what other churches were doing, and we grew, and it was great, but I didn't feel like it was us. I felt like we were trying to be something else. And not that we were being fake, I just didn't feel like I had the courage to be me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So to everybody listening, just be you.
It's good.
Be you. I mean, what would you tell people, Corey, as you've grown in your faith and in your life? And they're like, well, what's changed? Because I've watched your life change in the last year, especially. I've watched you grow so many ways. And I know you've walked through different things and healing processes and depression and anxiety, all kinds of stuff. But like, what would you say now if somebody's like, well, how do I? Because I don't think it's applicable to just people leading organizations or building a business. I think it's across the board. What would you say is that one thing for you that has changed? Really just where you're at with the confidence and the things God's calling you to do and your perspective?
I think you need two things. I think we've talked about this a lot. You need really good self-awareness, because that self-awareness drives you to become a better you. The you that, in faith, the you that is that person that is closer and closer to Christ, that person that is constantly saying, I need to be closer to Christ. And as I'm closer to God and Christ, He's changing me. But we've also talked about this where I'm still me. Like you're saying, be you. You're created for a purpose, for a reason. You're gifted for a purpose and a reason. God has given you skills and talents and dreams and all these kind of things. So the goal is not to change your form. Like I feel like I've struggled for a long time trying to fit into other people's forms. And you can call that identities or whatever, but it's almost leadership structures, whatever. It's like, man, well, for me to get there like that person, I need to be like them. And there was this crash course moment in my life where God is like, no, I've created you for a reason and on purpose. I want you to be a better version of you. And so I think it's those two things. Yes, be you, but strive to be the best version of you. And that happens through your spiritual disciplines. That happens through your relationship with God. That happens when the truth is when you kind of stand up for yourself. And like my problem was I was bending to other people and other things, and those emotions would just get stuffed, and I would just eat them, and then I would say, well, I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough. And it's just that moment where it's like, Jesus is like, you're more than enough already. It's not what you do, it's who you are, and I love you. But that causes me to want to be a better person for Jesus, for those around me, for my wife, for my kids. It's that drive. So I think you have to have that drive to become better, but it's always a better version of who God has already created you to be.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love it, man. I love it. Well, it's funny because that leads really to something I want to talk about. That an article I read, Megan Rapinoe said she was, one of the greatest U.S. women's soccer players ever. She just a couple of days ago had the last game of her professional career. It was the first couple of minutes of her professional career, and she tore her Achilles in the last game. And
I saw that.
So she's engaged to Sue Bird, right?
Yeah.
So she's been a big advocate for LGBTQ and just different organizations. And she said in her press conference, she said, I thought a little bit about it. And she said, I'm not a religious person or anything. And if there was a God, this is proof that there isn't.
Yeah.
Because she tore her Achilles.
Yeah.
She said, this is expletive up. So this is expletive up. It's like 6 minutes in and expletive eat my Achilles. I mean, what the expletive? And former Pittsburgh Steelers QB, there was a lot of people throwing down on her, religious people, which I hate because the Bible says the kindness of the Lord leads you people to repentance, meaning like, why do we treat people like they're stupid or ignorant? If they don't believe in God, like that's their right.
Yeah.
If she wants to live the way she wants to live, that's her right. Like God loves her the way that she is. That's a hard comment and statement for people to understand.
Yeah.
God loves people the way they are and however they've chose to live.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
The way they are, he loves them.
Yeah.
But we know God brings transformation and sanctification and all these things to our lives, but he loves you right where you're at the way you are. Like you don't have to do anything to earn that. And former Pittsburgh Steelers, they call him Duck, but Devlin Hodges, he's actually Lainey Wilson's boyfriend. You know Lainey Wilson?
The name sounds very familiar.
She's also on what's that movie? What's that show? I should know this. Yellowstone.
Oh.
So anyway, her boyfriend said, wow, for those seeing this, just know there is a God and he has wonderful plans for those that believe in him. And there was an article I was reading, it was complimenting him and how he went out and he took the high road and just said, man, hey, God loves y'all. He believes in you.
Yeah. I
was like, what? It was such a cool way to see people respond, to see somebody respond to something that obviously, if you love God, you don't have to be offended for him. I was talking to somebody this morning. I was like, you don't have to fight for what God's done in your life.
Yeah.
You just have to be obedient for it. He'll fight for it.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to fight the people around you. You don't have to fight your authorities. You don't have to fight for your placement. You let God be God and submit to what he's doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I tell people that all the time. You don't have to fight for what God's doing in your life. Let God be God.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think it's interesting. I think a lot of people need to realize you don't have to fight in your life for what God's trying to do. And, she's obviously very famous. She's got a famous fiance. She's very outspoken. And for her to say that to me is this public outcry. For me, it's like, that's public pain right there.
Yeah.
That's all I see. I just see like, man, the fact that you don't believe there's a God, you're missing out on so much because he loves you. And that pain that you're obviously coming out with publicly, it's a real hurt, and God can fix that. Like he could heal that pain. There's a hole in your life that no matter what you do will never be filled without God.
Yeah.
And so when I hear that, I just have empathy for people because I think we've all been there. I know I have. There's been I grew up in a pastor's home, and there's times I've had that. Like, it's not that I don't believe God's not real, because I do, because I've seen him in my life. But you wonder if he even knows you're there. Yeah. And you're like, well, that's honestly, that's just as much. That's the same thought. For not to know if he's there is the same as not believing that he's real. Because if you believe that he's real, the Bible says that he's everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
So to not believe that he's there is really the same thing. You're saying, well, I'm not an atheist, but if you're saying he's not there, then you're saying he's not what he says he is. So it's the same concept.
Yeah.
And so I think if we just take some humility and realize that people are at the same place we are, even at walking with God at times, and you can have empathy towards those people and not a judgmental heart of like, man, what is she saying? I can't believe she said that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it actually led me to another article. A Stanford scientist recently wrote, after decades of study, he concluded that we don't have a free will. And he just wrote a book.
Okay.
His Stanford scientist.
Yeah.
And he says virtually all human behavior is beyond our conscious control.
Wow.
Yeah. Which this is basically the Reformed school of thought, saying like we're all puppets and God's a puppet master. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's the case, he obviously doesn't believe in God, or if he does, that God's a puppet master, because if we don't have free will, that means God is doing the molesting.
Yeah.
God's doing the murdering. God's doing the killing, which that's not God.
Yeah.
That's giving God character traits that he doesn't possess, right? Evil possesses those things, but God doesn't possess character traits that you say, well, what about all the people in the Bible who died? And it says they dashed babies on the rocks, this and that. Those people were evil people. And what people don't realize is that those babies are spending eternity with God. And they were with evil people that would have spent an eternity away from him had they grown into the adults that their parents were, that were demonic and evil and sacrificing their own kids.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so people read the Bible with one angle. And I mean, that's kind of off topic from what I want to say, but also he talked about epilepsy, because back in the day, people thought those with epilepsy were demonic or demon possessed or had witchcraft. And they killed or castrated people who had epilepsy to prevent them from passing tainted blood to a new generation until they realized it's a neurological condition.
Yeah.
So they killed all these innocent people who had a neurological condition, just like bloodletting back in the day.
Yeah.
Like the reason barbershops have the red around the barber pole is the bloodletting, saying they would let people bleed out or different things to try to get disease out of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't help them. But anyway, this scientist said we reward and punish people for things that we have no control over. So he's basically saying we have no control over any decision we ever make. And he said free will is a myth, and the sooner we accept that, the more just our society will be. To me, this sounds like somebody who can't come to grips with a God. And so he's just arguing that we're all just robots in this world and that we don't have any responsibility for our decisions. Well, that's what demonic makes you think. Darkness makes you think that, so that way you won't, darkness will do anything it can to keep you from a decision for Jesus, right? Because it knows that's the only thing that changes your life. But he grew up Jewish, and religion shaped his life at home. And then he woke up one night with an epiphany that God isn't real and that we are primates on our own. And you say, how do you go from a Jew to an atheist? And he said that change is always possible, but it comes from external stimuli. So it's funny, man, how much people are searching. And this is a grown man who is a scientist and has tried to make every logical explanation in his life. And he come to the fact that there's no free will, that we're all just robots. And I think if you get deep enough and dark enough into mental health, or if you're struggling enough, you could see like, yeah, we're just robots. But I feel like that's just being disconnected from reality. To me, that's a disconnect from reality, is when I'm just a robot. I don't make decision. You're disconnected. And that's like the whole Reformed school of thought says, well, God pre-picks everybody. So, well, if that's the case, and I have 4 boys and God doesn't pick one of my kids, you're telling me I love one of my kids more than God loves them? Well, that's that's against the word of God. Because if he doesn't pick them, that means he's not with them. That's the Reformed school of thought. That's the whole Calvinist mindset, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, this guy, it's not true for anybody listening. I hate that this is the way he's thinking. And obviously anybody would know this is a disconnect from reality of like there's like, well, how do people change their minds and this and that? And he's like, well, there's stimuli that does that for you. Yeah. So even then, if you change your mind from something you should have had, it's the stimuli. It's not you making the decision.
I looked up a picture of I looked up a picture of him. He's wearing Crocs, so it makes sense. It all makes sense. Crocs with socks. So, in my opinion,
I like Crocs with socks. I don't wear them, but my kids do. It's a thing. I guess it's a thing now in the 2000s, 2023. Crocs with socks, man. The kids are all doing this stuff now. They think they got the style, and I'm like, bro, y'all realize you're just imitating mom and dad right now. Like your style is what we did in the 90s.
Yeah,
that's it.
You know, can I tell a story about Crocs really quick?
Yes.
Because I don't know if people know this story. There was this there's a sci-fi movie. I think it's a sci-fi movie or some movie. And the director at the time, this was back when Crocs weren't on the scene. Like they weren't a big name or anything. They were a company, but they weren't like a big name. So the director, the director of the movie was like, I need some kind of shoe that looks like the most ridiculous thing in the world for these group of people to wear. And I'll have to look up more specifically the movie. But basically the goal was I need to find the most ridiculous pair of shoes, and they're Crocs. And they're in that movie.
And then now they're a fad. Everybody loves them. I mean, I've seen Casey's grandfather used to wear them. That's all he ever wore. And then my 7th graders wearing them to school. I mean, they are a shoe that has transcended generational preferences and time. I mean, they've been around for 40 years.
Oh, it was the movie Idiocracy.
Nice. And now they're a fad.
Everyone in Idiocracy wears Crocs because they were horrible and cheap.
They ain't cheap now, bro.
From 2004.
They're not cheap now. Hey, and let me say this to all you listening. Let me say this to all you listening. This just proves our point that fads are powerful. They are comfortable. They are comfortable for what it's worth.
I love it. I love it so much.
Hey, the sweatshirt Corey's rocking today looks good too. You can't see it. It's the Palms gear.
Well, you can here in a second. Wait.
Well, not if they're listening. Some people right now are listening to us while they're out there mowing, man.
That's true.
All of our shout outs to all of our landscapers.
You need to stop. You need to stop mowing right now. You need to get out your phone. You need to pull up the video, and you need to see the shirt.
Corey's repping the Palms merch, man.
Yeah.
Hey, shameless plug. Go to brandshank.com or palmschurchonline.com. Click on merch. We got some. It's also available every week live at Green Run High School. But for all you that aren't here, go online and get your merch, man.
Yeah. They've been
Christmas
the last
time.
2 weeks, man. They've been going fast.
It's Christmas time. People are buying them up.
I know.
We're going to have to make our spring line soon. The great thing about merch is all the money goes towards great causes of these campuses that we're planting. Starting a new campus in March in Maryland, 6 hours from here. Let's go.
Oakland.
Excited.
Yeah,
Oakland, we're coming for you, baby. So Mel Gibson is in the process of filming a Passion or a sequel to the Passion of the Christ. Did you know that?
I did know that.
And so this is going to be one of two that he's filming. This one's going to be focused on the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Passion, now these numbers have been changed to reflect current inflation. But the Passion of the Christ made $612 million. It's the most of any R-rated movie ever.
Yeah.
Which is pretty impressive. But this movie is going to take place 24 hours after Jesus' death and the 3 days between the crucifixion and resurrection. So,
I like it.
Yeah, Jim Caviezel was talking about how when he was being read the script and kind of the stories, he was on the ground crying.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I've read a lot about it, dude. It's like you probably remember that. You see it in theaters, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Right. Dude,
Oh yeah.
Like
so I was in college and we saw it in theater with our the ladies basketball team. My wife and I we were friends with a bunch of them. So we went to the women's basketball team and watched it.
Yeah, we had at the time we were in a movie theater, our church that I was a part of, and they had like a special showing, and it was just a bunch of people. Dude, that like it hit, man.
Yeah,
it hit.
It was one of those days that I'll never forget the rest of my life, and it was funny because as I'm sitting there watching it, when the movie was over, nobody moved.
Yes.
The only other movie I've ever been at that happened was Lone Survivor.
Yeah.
The Mark Wahlberg recreation of
true story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the name of the seal in Lone Survivor?
I don't remember.
I gotta look it up now.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But that was out of Virginia Beach, man. That was SEAL Team 6.
Yeah.
But Marcus Luttrell. That's Marcus Luttrell. He was actually in that movie as one of the SEALs. Not as the main guy, one of the main guys, but he was at like the part of eating breakfast, and he was there as one of those guys. He was in the movie, which was cool.
Yeah.
But the only other movie I've ever seen was that Lone Survivor. At the end of that, you know how it shows like the pictures of the guys that were actually killed.
Yeah.
And it does like a little music.
Yeah.
People just sat there.
Yep.
And but at the end of the Passion of the Christ, nobody moved, and it wasn't just out of respect. It was out of, you just heard people like the sniffling, the whole, it was just one of those movies where it wasn't a hypersensitive reaction to something.
Yeah.
It was the most real depiction we've ever seen of things that actually happened.
Yes.
I've never watched it since. I've tried once.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't want to know what happened. It's that it is extremely graphic.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I love God and I love Jesus more than anything in my life. I say that. I love him as much as my family. And what I mean by that is I don't know how to love more than that. I'm trying.
Yeah.
But I love him as much as I love my wife and kids. I would put him in front of everything because I know he's what's best for them.
Yeah.
And to see that happen to him, it's like I don't want to see my kids get beat.
Yeah.
So why would I keep watching it? I know what happened, but I don't want to see it again.
Yeah.
I know what happened. I don't want to watch that happen to Jesus. Like it's that intimate.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, this next one, I can't wait to see what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. So, hey, final thought.
Here's my final thought.
So, mental health, I felt like for a long time, mental health was one of those things that you were weak if you expressed it. And then post-pandemic, particularly, a lot of people during the pandemic struggled with mental health because we were locked alone and we were not having community. In fact, I think the greatest thing right now with the local church is like people, they want to go to local church, they want to grow, but they want community more than anything. And there's nobody does that better than a local church.
Yeah.
But there was the other day I read this thing where it says these things can cut depression in half. And they were things that are obvious: rest, exercise, nourishment, eating good, limit alcohol and don't smoke, cut back on screen time. And cultivating friendships and social connections through hobbies. And when you read this, you think, well, these are basic. Why are we not doing them? Because they're all like, they're disciplines. They're hard, but like rest and exercise seem like they'd be basic, but they're actually disciplines. You know, I know when I wake up and I'm tired, like I got to get going somehow. I can't just go downstairs and skip my coffee, skip my workout. Like I've got to get going. Like the hardest thing for me isn't like getting going once I'm like ready to work out. The hardest thing for me is getting out of bed. Like I could lay in bed for 40 minutes and not even be asleep and just lay there. I feel like the time between my alarm going off and me getting up flies. I could be 20 minutes and I'm thinking, man, it was like 2 minutes, but it was 20. Like if I don't get up when my alarm goes off, that's the time that I kill, because I get up, I have my routines, I brush my teeth, you know, I take out my retainers.
You gotta kick these out.
I gotta take out my retainers and brush my teeth and then mouthwash. And then I go work out. And my workout is in my garage is detached from my house, so it's really cold.
Yeah.
So I got to make that trek. It's not far, but
that's good for your body, though.
Dude, it
wakes you up.
I don't believe you. It feels. And so then, you know, I got to do my thing. But my point is, I think for a lot of us, there's so many people right now. They are depressed. They are anxious. Listen, holidays are coming, and this is the height of it. Why? And I'm going to tell you why. People are trying to figure out, but let me tell you why. Because your expectation is not your reality during the holidays. You always picture the Christmas commercials.
Oh, yeah.
We picture the cookies baking in the oven. We picture the Macy's Day Parade and how sweet Thanksgiving Day is going to be and all of these things. And then the day isn't consistent with what our expectation was.
Yeah.
And we get depressed of like, we put all this pressure on the holidays to be a particular thing. For some of you, this is your first holiday without somebody you love.
Yeah.
It's your first holiday without somebody you care for. It's your first, or cared for like that. It's your first holiday in a new place, and you feel like you have these expectations. But I'm telling you, your depression's going to come after the holidays. People say, well, it was just so fast, and I had to shop and all the money. But what it is the reason that January is such a letdown, and we're like in these weird places, is because there's such an expectation for November and December.
Yeah.
That we look forward to, and like it's going to bring joy, nothing else can. And when it doesn't, there's a depression that follows of, well, then what's going to bring joy? If I can't get happy in these times, when will I ever get happy?
Yeah.
If my family won't come together these times, when do they come together? And I think that's the big letdown of the holidays, is that the expectation is different. I mean, this is a big issue. If like the movies you watch are movies, you know, enjoy them, but don't expect them to be your life.
Yeah.
Those people were moved on with their life. Some of them are dead. Like they're just movies.
Yeah.
Like they're not reality. That's why it's called a movie.
Yeah.
You know, and not a reality show. And I just, you know, encouraging people, like, enjoy the holidays, man. Don't let depression creep in, anxiety. Like, do the things that are physical. Lean into God. Let Him be your nourishment. Let His word be the lamp unto your feet and a light into your path. Don't, just like this Sunday, I was talking about the sacred over the sun. Like, make the sun, the relationship with Jesus, your number one thing. And then let those things feed that. You know, let the reading and growing close to God. And, you know, Palm's going to have an incredible Christmas Eve experience. Like, all these things are going to be exciting. But I know for me, I work on Christmas Eve. People might say, man, you work every weekend and on Christmas Eve and on Easter. Like, that's the worst job ever.
Yeah.
It's like, well, for people that aren't doing it, but I love it, man. I love working every Christmas Eve. I love, you know, be like, well, is it work? You better believe it's work.
Yeah.
The weight you carry coming into that. And then on Christmas Eve itself, I had one of my most depressed moments probably in my life. In 2019, the Christmas of 2019. We had Christmas Eve at Cox High School where we were meeting. We had our second location, and over at the Strawbridge movie theaters. And for this Christmas Eve, we're like, you know what? We're just going to do, since we have 3 services, we're just going to do them all here. We're not going to broadcast. Bring everybody over. It's like a 10-minute drive, so we'll bring everybody over for this one thing. And the auditorium held like 600, and we were full 4 nights in a row.
Yeah,
pretty full. Or 3 services in a row. Excuse me. 2 nights. No, it was 4. I think it was two on the 23rd, 2 on the 24th. And the attendance for both was equal.
Yeah.
If not, the 23rd might have even been a little bigger. And it was the biggest 4 services we've ever had. They were incredible. It was just the most wonderful time of the year. You know, we had snow machines. I mean, it felt amazing. And I remember waking up on Christmas morning. That was probably the single most depressed day I've ever had in my life, if not in the top 5.
Yeah.
And I think there was a part of me that I was like, the expectation of what it would feel like when you got to that place as a church pastor and you grew to that point, it wasn't consistent with my expectation. And I was exhausted from the holiday season. We had a lot of transition going on. And when it was over, it just felt like it took everything from me, and I had lost focus because of all the infighting and all the things I had to deal with and all the things in my own spirit. And I've always worked out. I've always tried to get rest. I've always eaten good, but I haven't, and I don't drink. I don't smoke. Only on Christmas.
Go hard.
Yeah. But I just think like that day was one of the darkest days, and my wife's family was here. Her grandparents were here. We had an incredible Christmas day.
Yeah.
But looking back, I let things steal time like that was so valuable. I was in such a bad mood.
Yeah.
And almost to the point where I didn't want to do Christmas. I was like, man, I let depression steal from me. That time I'll never get back with my family.
Yeah.
I'll never get that back with my kids again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm never going to get it back. And so it wasn't that it was an awful day. I don't even know if my kids would have noticed. But now, like, my oldest is in 7th grade, and I'm actually speaking at an event this Friday up in Fredericksburg, like a men's conference, and he's going with me. And
Cool.
I love my kids seeing what I get to do outside of,
Yeah.
like, I like them seeing it here. But when I get to go on the road and take them with me, I love it. And I'm just now starting to do a little bit of traveling since baseball's over for the fall. And I can't hide depression like I used to because my kids are old enough. They know. And I can honestly say that it's not what it used to be. I don't really struggle with it a ton. Now, if I struggle, it's like a 3 out of 10, whereas before I was ready to take my life, you know? And so we talk a lot about mental health on this podcast because you and I are both, I don't like the word victims. You and I are both survivors of depression and suicidal things, you know? But when I read this, I'm like, these are great. But number one, it's knowing your value in God. You can have all the rest, exercise, nourishment you want. I've done all these things. I've had rest, exercise, I'm nourished. I don't smoke. I don't drink alcohol, only on Christmas. Again, it's a joke. I don't cut back on screen time. Like I watch when my kids are watching. I don't do a ton of screen time. My wife bought me Madden for my birthday this year. I played it twice.
Hey.
Yeah. Cultivate friendships, social connections through hobbies. I golf. Like I had a tradition with one of my buddies. We golf the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. It's beautiful. Usually the courses are chill, and we go out and golf right here in Virginia Beach. It's amazing and beautiful here. Virginia Beach grass stays alive. You know what I mean? Like it's still warm here. So all that to say, I do all these things, but I'm gonna tell you the number one thing. You've got to know Jesus because he will tell you who you are and he'll cultivate that, man. He changes the game.
Absolutely.
So I'm telling you, I'm not here because of all those things. Those things, do they help? You better believe it. But nothing is better than the love of God, knowing like, man, he values me and I don't have to do anything to earn this. And that's why these articles, so maybe this whole thing unintentionally led towards people saying Jesus isn't real and we have no free will. And, you know, if God is real, this wouldn't have happened. Well, that's the narcissistic view of God. If you're real, you make my life perfect. Well, he tried. It's called the Garden of Eden. And, you know, if you're without sin, then go ahead and make that argument. But we aren't. So I want this to be the most wonderful time of the year for everybody listening. And I don't want them to struggle with depression, but your expectations will not be met through the holidays. But I can tell you my joy doesn't come. The moment of mourning may last for the night, but joy comes in the morning for me. Even this week, I kind of, Monday, I just kind of felt down and there wasn't any reason. I mean, Sunday was great at Palms. Baseball has finished Saturday night. And I think like maybe the emotions of that being let down, the adrenaline, you know, there's stuff to do. I'm, you know, with different things I'm leading, traveling this weekend. Like there's a lot going on. And I think it was just, sometimes it's just my spirit's way of saying, hey man, step away and refresh. And it doesn't mean it's a dark room with me drinking a cup of tea and staring into a wall. It's saying do something you enjoy. Like get away from everything that is required of you to pour out. And do something that pours in. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Absolutely, dude.
So
or let it out somehow. I had a moment like that last week where it was just like, everything came to a boiling point, again, old me would have stuffed it all and just went, well, just keep moving, keep trying to change, keep trying, whatever. We have a little room out in our garage, and I just went out in our garage. We have a little chair out there, and for 15 minutes, I just cried. I was just like, God, like that's basically all it was. And then after that, it was, again, just that healthy reminder of God, like, I see you, I love you. That's it. That's all I need.
It's awesome.
And then I came back in my house, and I told my wife, and I was like, I just had a moment, but I'm good. That's all I needed. Like, just let it out. Like, you don't, yeah.
Because I think when you're depressed and you're going through that stuff, a lot of times you don't feel like God sees you.
Yeah.
You don't feel important. But like, so for me, one of the things I do, it's so funny because I hate working out anymore. Like, I'm old and I'm tired. My body hurts. I like it once I'm going. I do because it's like a mental thing. I love it. But I hate the process of getting to the gym. Like for me, it's walking across my yard. But once I'm in there and I turn the lights on and I turn the music up and like, my in-laws are moving in the apartment above our garage. But for right now, there's nobody there. So I'm blasting it. And I just let it eat. And my wife's like, I could hear the words today. I was like, well, sorry about that. She's like, no, you do your thing. And that's what I love about my wife. She's like, no, you do your thing. That's your time. And so I go out there in the mornings and just turn it up and let it go. And I love it because once I get in there and turn the lights on and let it go, I just feel like it's me and God. And it's just, my unadulterated time with him. And you might think, well, how is that? Like, dude, I can get on a treadmill and talk to God better than I can sitting in a room most of the time because I'm active, So just an encouragement to everybody out there. Don't let the expectation of this season destroy the beauty of it. This is the first year my wife's grandma passed away in August, and we used to always go to her house for Thanksgiving. We would take our RV and stay in the mountains. And she had a beautiful A-frame cabin overlooking rows of mountains, and I will miss that deeply.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I will miss her. I've already thought a lot about her. My wife's grandparents, we spent a ton of time with, and in the last 3 years, they both passed away, and they were both really healthy. It was just really sudden. Her grandfather fell, and then like 2 weeks later passed away, and her grandma just passed away from cancer. That was found really late, and it was like, I don't know, 6 weeks she was gone. And they're great people, and I'll miss them. I already missed them because they always, like last year, her grandma came to our house for Christmas. And so for us, I know my wife hasn't talked a lot about it. I think she deals with things differently. I know she missed her grandma, but she processed a lot when her grandma passed. In fact, I was speaking at a church in D.C. the week her grandma passed, and it was nice to be able to get away. But it was like, I know Casey walked through a lot then, and I kind of process as seasons come. And, as things progress, and I know I've missed her grandparents so much, especially during Thanksgiving, because we used to always spend it with them. And it's like, it's weird because the first time in my life, as we achieve things and as success comes our way and things you want to share with them, like her grandparents love the parades and watching the drum lines, and Caden's in the drum line at his school, like they're not there. And so it's the first time in my life where it would be very easy to go into places of like feeling like you'll never, ever be able to share with people that you love things that are going on in your life that they'd be so excited about. And how do I counter that? I realized that those things never fulfilled me. That God's the only thing that fulfilled me. So as much as I'd want that, those aren't going to change the way I actually feel. Does that make sense? I know this is a long final thought. It's like a third of the show, but I just want to encourage everybody out there. Enjoy your holidays. Enjoy your kids. Don't create an expectation that you can't meet. And at the end of the day, I don't want to travel a lot. I mean, I don't get a ton. It's not like people are beating down my door, but like I coach, and like if I miss weekends, it's usually for tournaments. I want to be with my kids right now. Like they're gone in a couple of years. I don't want to be without them. I don't want to go and do this. Like I can do that when they're gone. And I do travel some, but the expectation for this season is I just want to spend time with my kids and my parents and my, Casey's parents. Like they're all getting older.
Yeah, dude.
They're all getting older,
Goes
and it's
fast.
Like it does. Like my oldest is in 7th grade. You might think, well, man, you don't know, but I mean, he used to be a newborn, and I have pictures of it.
Oh yeah,
and we were looking at him yesterday.
Yes, we were. Yep.
Of us with I had just my 2. You had your 1 at the time.
Yeah.
And those I can think back, and it doesn't feel very long ago.
No, it doesn't.
And I've had 2 more since then, and been 9 years as a church pastor, pastor of this church.
Yeah.
And so when I look at that picture, I'm like, man, I can like go back and feel the room.
I always had that meme of Robin Williams in my head of Jumanji. What year is it? That's how I feel all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me pray with y'all. Lord, I thank you for each and every listener. I thank you for each person, wherever they're at right now. I pray that whatever is in their heart, if they're struggling with something where they feel depressed or anxious or overwhelmed or maybe even dreading this season, that they would see that, God, you're good. That honestly, this season celebrates you. So much to be thankful for. God, sending your son into the world, not to condemn the world, but to save it, that they would feel today that they're loved, pursued, and they're seen. God, we thank you. We love you. Everybody said, amen. Hey, we love y'all. We'll see you this weekend, 9:30 online or at Green Run.
Fast.
We'll see y'all.
Dude, I missed the whole thing. Here we go. All right, put outro. Sorry.
But the picture's up.
The picture's up.
Oh.
I didn't play the music.
Hey, production's harder than it looks.
It is. Pray for me, y'all. I need it. Love you. Bye.